Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Courtside with Beilinson Tennis, part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink. And we are privileged enough to have with us a man who is on the ground, boots on the ground in Australia. It is Mr. Craig Shapiro. Craig, thank you for taking time out and talking with us. Let's timestamp this, and then I'll pass it on over to you for a little bit. It is Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, which is roughly Monday afternoon. I know Bencic is playing now, right, Craig?
It's Monday. It's 12:04, and Belinda Bencic has given up a break and lost 3 straight games, I believe, and just lost the first set 7-5. Right below me in Rod Laver Arena. So I'm on the roof of Rod Laver Arena in what's called the competition areas. You can see here, John Newcomb, in fact, is back at that table. Another Hall of Famer. I've got Steve there and Newcomb here, and then out here is this is the courtyard, I guess, or the grounds, right? Those are the grounds. That's the Ralph Lauren store, and then behind that store, that big stadium you see is the National Cricket Stadium, the National Cricket Grounds, sorry, the NCG. Anyway, thank you for having me. I've been here for the past week or so, and it's been a thrill, as per always. These Grand Slams, these majors are just awesome.
So
Awesome.
Craig, have you been getting any sleep? Because the night matches have been pretty spectacular, long night matches. Tell us about that.
So I had so there was a rain out day on Tuesday, and then Wednesday became a crazy slog. No one played until 5 p.m. and then every court went nuts, and I didn't leave till 2 a.m. I think I was watching Corentin Moutet play with one arm. He actually he did something to his off wrist, and he was playing Cerundolo way out, but it was a wild night. That ended up, I think it threw all the players off, to be honest. There was a lot of lopsided scores. The women's tennis in particular, the scores were shocking, and then everyone sort of died. And then the following night, they had the genius idea of putting Andy Murray on at about 11 p.m. and he went till 4:30. And I actually was on the grounds till 3 p.m. and I sort of died myself. I had to leave. So shamefully I missed that match, which is the only real match, the late match I missed.
Last night you saw Vikas Azarenka win at like 2:30 in the morning or something.
Correct. I was here. Yannick Sinner played a terrible 5th set against Stefanos Tsitsipas. About 25-30 minutes later, Azarenka took the court at 11:30, you guys, and she played Zhu, Chinese player who played very well in the first set. She lost the second set 6-1, but it felt like a tighter set than 6-1. And then they exchanged breaks back to back in the third set. Chinese crowd, there's a lot of Chinese people here in Melbourne. The Chinese crowd was amplified, and it was great. Left here at 2:30, and now I'm back. So today's the last day for me. Unfortunately, but it has been these night sessions are a problem. I think that it's a problem. They're doing a disservice to the players, they're doing a disservice to the fans, and they're doing a disservice to the people working here. That's for sure.
No, that's well said. And I know, look, the three of us are Americans, so why don't we just start with this? I mean, especially on the men's side, 8 Americans into the third round, and that didn't include Taylor Fritz. So he got through. It could have been 9. Brandon Holt was up 2-0 in his second round match. I think that could have been 10
And Brandon Holt, just to interrupt for 1 second, he got shafted. I forgot the exact logistics of that, but they killed him schedule wise. He was cooked by the time he got into that. You know, he should have had a better schedule, and had he had a better schedule, he should have he could have maybe come through that match. That was a shame.
Yeah, and you know what, I did want to talk about, and I coach a good high school team in Chicago, and we had in 2016, the suburbs of Chicago, 2016, 17, we had a couple really, really good kids that played in Kalamazoo, and I went down to Kalamazoo to support them. In 2016 and 2017, 16 was Michael Moe who won it. 17 was JJ Wolf who got to the final. I mean, these guys are doing great. And Sebastian Korda was there. He didn't win it, but Sebastian Korda, my God, he beats Medvedev in straight sets. He wins a dynamic match against, fifth set in the breaker against Hurkacz.
I would disagree. I don't think that I think he played his worst tennis against Hurkacz.
I didn't mean to say it was like an epic match, but I said just the fifth set in a final tiebreaker to get through. I mean,
yeah, he won ugly. That was his, by far his worst tennis. That was the last match on yesterday. And quite often, I think Steve probably could add to this, but quite often a player on his way to winning a championship has a bad day.
That's right.
Has to grind it out.
But you know what, Craig, I hear you, and I get it. I would just want to add that he started badly, Korda, and lost the first set. I thought he played quite well the next two, and Hubie didn't play terribly well. And then suddenly Hubie got another opening to win the fourth set, and then the fifth set was hard fought all the way. And where I think your point is well taken, by the way, and this was not just Korda, but it was Hurkacz as well, as they both were tight in the last tiebreak, because it was 3-1 for Hurkacz, who loses 6 points in a row to go down 7-3, then wins 4 points in a row to make it 7-all, and loses 3 points in a row to drop the match. And there weren't not many well-played points in that fifth set tiebreak, but to David's point, it's still a great achievement for him to be here in the quarters.
Oh.
And he played much better, I thought, against Medvedev, by the way. I thought that was a better performance.
Oh, no. I actually said that the Medvedev performance to me shot him up to the favorite to win the tournament. The level he played was unbelievable. To see it in person was something special. He absolutely handled Medvedev like I don't think we've ever really seen that.
But also, yeah, you're right. And you also withstood some surges there. I mean, it was a 4-1 double break lead for Korda in the first set, and it ends up going to a tiebreak. But he kept his cool, and then he wins the second, and then 4-3, 40-15 in the third. He let him back in a bit again there, but played another good tiebreak. So I think it was really commendable that he did not, that it didn't get apprehensive when Medvedev made these comebacks. And by the way, Craig, you were probably at that press conference. But some of the remarks made by Medvedev, I thought were just terrific. The way he talked about how anybody in the top 30 can beat anybody else in the top 30. The way he said, it wasn't that I played bad. He just played better. He was the better player. And it wasn't until he was asked about the injury that I don't think he would have even brought up this arm injury had he not been asked. And even then, he didn't overplay it and act as if it cost him the match. That was one of the best losing press conferences I've ever seen Medvedev give.
To that point, he seems to have a different, something's going on with him. He's not playing angry right now. And
true.
Something's a little bit off. I don't know what, but there might be something internally going on with him. He's not playing well, and he's not playing like. He reminds me of a guy in a bar that like looks over at the guy across the bar and it's like, I don't like that guy. I feel like he needs an enemy. And
I think you're right. I think you're right. And I think that what's interesting to me is I trace it right back to this tournament last year. Medvedev is in the finals. He's won the US Open the year before. He's up 2-0 3-2, love 40 on Rafa's serve in that third set, ready to break it open and close it out, and loses 7-5 in the fifth. And I think that was a devastatingly potent loss for him. And frankly, I think it led to a lot of the poor results the rest of last year. Not to mention, he had the hernia problem. He couldn't play Wimbledon because the Russians were banned. There were a lot of things that were out of his control. But you're right. Right now, he's in a bit of an odd state. But that, to me, doesn't take anything away from the sport, how sporting he was in that press conference.
Correct.
And before we leave, talking about the Americans, we got a heck of a fun showdown to watch tonight. Hopefully it's going to be great between Ben Shelton and JJ Wolf. We've mentioned JJ. For those that haven't seen Ben won the NCAAs at Florida. He played like 3, 4, or 5 in the first year when he was there in the lineup. The second year he won it, and now he's just cruised through the challenger circuit. He's been great, had that great win over Casper Ruud in Cincinnati. That's going to be a fun one to watch. Craig, any thoughts? And what's the word on the grounds with that one?
I saw JJ Wolf really tune up Diego Schwartzman out on court 3, which is a cool little bull ring of a court. And the way I describe him is, both guys I actually describe as carbonated. Both players have this carbonated arms, this carbonated serves. They just are carbonated. They're just coming with like heavy heat, incredible energy. And then I had the distinction of, I watched Ben put it on Popperin and that John Cain court the other day with Stan Smith. And Stan was extremely impressed with Ben Shelton's tennis. I think everyone in that room was amazed at that level. Ben Shelton, his serve, when he's serving well, is generally speaking unreturnable. He hits that can opener out wide. It's like a new age McEnroe lefty out wide. He can kick the second serve practically into the stands, up the middle. That serve down the middle opens up that serve out wide. It's essentially unreturnable. He is good, and he doesn't miss his backhand. He hits this like knuckleball backhand. All these guys have it now, like Kyrgios. He never misses it. Then he rips the forehand, and it's like people are not surprised. People in the locker room are not surprised that kid is here right now. So I don't know who's going to win that match. And JJ Wolf's ball striking is Agassi-like. I love both players very much.
I think Craig is spot on with that, David. It's a really tough call. I mean, you would not want to be betting your life on that match, because it could be one of those really riveting 5-setters. I kind of hope it is, because it would be very entertaining for the public. And I don't have a strong notion of who's going to win it either.
And they put that match on the John Cain. That's the court of the people. That's the court that anyone can walk into that court, and that could. Hopefully it's Monday here. I hope that people come to that match, because that to me is the popcorn match of the day. That to me is just money in the bank. And I just wanted to add that both guys have heavy swagger. They are confident young American kids. They're not here to make friends. They're not rolling around with, entourages and girlfriends and all this and that. They're just coming to play ball.
Yeah, I hope it lives up to what everybody thinks and is hoping what that match will live up to, because that's going to be a fun one to see. Hey, you had mentioned him earlier, and I mean, we got to talk about him. Andy Murray, and Steve and I have talked about this a number of times, and I know, Craig, you're going to be aware of this as well. Nothing short of miraculous what Andy did. The issue is, he has to work so incredibly hard in the early rounds of slams that for him to ever make a serious run at a slam, it's just, you can't do what he does and has to fight and battle so hard in the first round. And then if you get through that, a second round, I mean, you saw him in the third round, he was toast. Again, nothing short of miraculous of what he did, but for anyone to expect him to make a serious run on 2 weeks over a slam, it just can't happen the way he goes about his business.
Well, so about a month ago, almost to the day, I'm just looking at the date. I hosted a practice and a breakfast with Yvonne Lendl, and the breakfast was a Q&A, and you know, sir, and he was literally on his way to Australia. He was going to host the following week. He went to Australia with Andy, and he said he's ready. I said, he's ready. I was like, can he win 7 matches? He's like, you know, obviously the draw needs to open up. You never know what could happen, but he's ready. And I've been in a lot of sporting events. I'm getting the chills just talking about this. I've been in a lot of sporting events, a lot, including the 2017 Super Bowl when the New England Patriots were down 28-3 at the half, and they staged this. I will tell you that Berrettini match, he saved match point. That was as big of a moment, as high tension, electric, whatever word you want. It was unbelievable. And all I could think about was Lendl saying he's ready, and Lendl sitting in that box. And it was really a signature moment for tennis, I thought, to see this guy with a metal hip come through like that. It was something special. And then they screwed him, right? He gets to go play at 10:30 p.m. 2 nights later, and you know, he wins this epic against Kokkinakis that ends at 4:30 in the morning. He said in his presser after he lost to, was it Bautista Agut he lost to?
Yeah.
Yes.
So after he loses to Bautista Agut, he said that he had to get up 3 hours after he went to bed to go get blisters drained.
Crazy.
He had 8 blisters on his feet, which is, I can't even imagine.
Can't even
with
imagine.
With that said, he also said that he did it to himself in a way, because he's not up there, because he doesn't have a seeding.
Yeah.
So if he's seeded, he could get a better draw and he could get through. But it seemed like to everybody, he wants to like try to make a run. He wants to get up. He wants to get his ranking up. I believe he's playing like Rotterdam. He's playing a full schedule. He wants to get his ranking up, and he wants to make a run because he thinks he can compete. And you know, it's funny. I saw him lose at Wimbledon, and when he lost at Wimbledon, I was taking pictures like it was the last time he would ever play tennis. And I couldn't have been more wrong, right? Like this was just he electrified the tournament this week. The only press that really travels, that comes heavy, is the British press. You know, all these guys are here: Simon Briggs, Jumani Carriol, Mike Dixon, the people from the tennis podcast. Everyone is here, and they just, you know, he took them on a ride. And Dan Evans played great too. Good week for British tennis. But
just a quick follow-up on Craig's analysis of Murray, David, to get back to your original point. He's up 2-0 against Berrettini. If he can somehow close that match out, it makes a big difference if he wins in 3 or at most 4. But then it just ends up with a domino effect, and he gets a 5-setter in the next match. And the fact that he even took a set up Bautista Agut is a great credit to Andy's professionalism. But I just worry about that, Craig. Even if he does get himself in the top 32 and he's seeded 28, or it'll help some, but the draws are not going to get that much better. The matches are not going to get that much easier. And I think deep down, Yvonne knows it even as well as Andy is playing.
I feel like it's like a bag of Doritos. You just keep eating them until they're gone. That's it, man. He's just gonna take you for a ride, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, another guy who's been, battling some physical ailments as of late is Rafa. And a funny thing, Steve, Craig and I were talking. I don't remember, Craig, if it was late last year, very early this year, because we're still early this year. But you had mentioned to me, just from what you've heard and what you've seen of Rafa late, like you're worried that there may be a lot of losing from Rafa this year.
No, I don't. I don't. I conversely just don't think he's going to play if he can't compete well. That's what I think. I think that he's on short time. I don't think that he can win matches back to back too much anymore. And he was here heavy. He was here with, I think I counted like 18 people in the box. His wife was here with the baby. It felt like that was a final wave goodbye to that crowd. I don't think he's gonna put himself and his fans through a crummy farewell tour where he just loses and loses and loses and loses. I think he'll shut it down.
Now it's interesting because Steve and I have talked about, like, from last year, right? This tournament was where unbelievable that he won it. He then wins the French, and then Wimbledon. I mean, he didn't play great at Wimbledon, but he gets through, and then he gets injured in the quarters. He winds up beating Taylor, but he was 2 matches away. Not that those 2 matches were going to be easy, because he was going to have to play Kyrgios and Djokovic. No guarantees at all. But he was trying to get 3 slams in a row, and then since that injury to Taylor, it's just been tough sledding, Steve. I mean,
No,
really.
I think I couldn't agree more. And I think you and Craig are analyzing it very, very well. It's sad. Now, I do think the whole key to where he's headed, Craig, is going to be the clay court circuit. We may not see him in Indian Wells or Miami. It depends that it looks like with this latest injury, he might miss one or both. But I think he'll put everything he has into Monte Carlo, Rome, all the rest, and getting ready to try to get number 15 in Paris. And if that clay court circuit does not go well, and he's not winning tournaments, and he loses in the 4th round of the French, I mean, this is a dark scenario, and it may not happen. Then I think it could well be that he maybe doesn't even play out the year. But if somehow he gets a boost out of the clay court circuit and manages to win Roland Garros again, I don't think he'll be able to stop himself. So that's going to be a critical phase, that clay court campaign.
Yeah, I'm bearish on it all.
You're bearish that he's right near the end.
Yeah, that there's not a lot of tread left on those tires. Yeah, nobody.
But Craig, sorry to interrupt. Just answer this one for me. Didn't you kind of feel that way going into last year? I know I was not optimistic for him, coming off missing the second half of the previous year almost entirely, and then to walk out there and win a 250 and then win the Australian, and then next thing you know.
I can remember talking to Jim Courier 10 years ago, being like, "There's no way this guy's going to be able to keep running the way he runs."
Right.
After his 4th, literally, I remember it's being like, this guy can't play like this. So I always say I never bet against Rafa, but listen, that was tough, and also that was tough to watch, right? Mackie McDonald.
It was
very tough to watch. But I just want to tell you, you can see I'm a little distracted here. Quite often, once you get to this back end of the week, you don't see a lot of the players in these lounges. They're just all about their business down in the basement where they're going to train, or they don't really. Holger Rune and Patrick Mouratoglou and the team is up here right now. They're about to get ready to go to war. And I just want to make mention of the fact that I'm very bullish on Holger Rune. I think that he is bad to the bone. I think he, with Mouratoglou, they've been all about business this week. He turned his ankle in his last match, and there's a little bit of question about it, but talking with some of the people in his camp, that he watched Carlito Alcaraz do what he did a year ago, and it's motivated him to just absolutely come out here and kill. So, don't forget, he's what's it, 369, he's 12 sets away from a championship too. And this Muradoglu team is all business this week. No joking around whatsoever.
No, I hear you. I understand why you're so enthused about him. And obviously that was a great Paris-Bercy last year, and he beat Novak in a spectacular match to win the title. And he has that it factor. He's got the temperament. He's got the drive. And it's going to be fascinating. It'd be fascinating if he were to beat Rublev in the war that you just mentioned. And if Novak came through against De Minaur, to see them play again in a big Grand Slam quarterfinal, I think the fans would just be beside themselves watching that match.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Novak, what's the word? We've all been hearing about the hamstring. He's getting through, and the Dimitrov match, Steve and I had also talked about this offline. That was the kind of a tricky match, and we were really going to see how Novak was moving around in that match. What have you been hearing? What's your take? How bad is this injury?
I'll just say this. I've been thinking about how I wanted to discuss this, and I can you really be hurt if you can beat Grigor Dimitrov in straight sets in a pro tennis match? Like, how hurt can you be that you got to be able to dig to the corners, be able to play world-class tennis? How hurt can you really be? David Law said something on their show, the tennis podcast, the other day that I thought was interesting, and I can't stop thinking about what he said. He said, Murray, when he has aches and pains, he doesn't speak to them. Novak, when he has like a little niggle, it rattles him, and his nature is to tell everybody. And I'm having a hard time thinking that he is hurt in my definition of hurt, where you can't dig to a corner and stretch out wide in a split. I just don't know how is that hurt? How can you be hurt?
Okay. Now this is terrific. I've been waiting for this moment, David, because Craig and I, for the sake of the listeners, we need to disagree on a few things. We've been agreeing on almost everything. This one, we are miles apart, and I'm going to tell you why. Adelaide, semifinals, Djokovic-Medvedev. I watched the entire match. He's playing beautifully at the beginning, and then as he in 4-2 on his way to 5-2 is when he got the injury. You could see he was hobbled. He took a medical timeout. He doesn't need to be taking a medical timeout when he's up 5-2 in the first set unless he's hurt. He takes it, he comes back, you see that he's concerned about it. Then he manages to win the match in straight. Then he beats Korda in the final. Didn't play great against Korda, by the way. And you could see he was very agitated during that match. And then he talked about how he needed a lot of treatment before the match. He was very concerned about it. Comes here, not to belabor the point, but he's been taking medical timeouts in every match with leads. He was up 4-1 in the third when he took his second medical timeout against Dimitrov. Okay, you say, how can you beat Dimitrov? You can beat Dimitrov in straight sets if you're Novak Djokovic, because as talented as Dimitrov is, Novak Djokovic is a decidedly better player. And he's disciplined, and he's driven, and he's willful. And so I believe he's playing very much hurt. Now, time is going to tell, because we're talking about this hours before he plays De Minaur. But there's one thing I know about this guy, especially in these last 10, 11 years. Yes, in the early days of his career, where you saw him retiring from a lot of matches, he has now become one of the most indefatigable fighters the sport has. And he'll play his way through all that pain. And this is not acting. This is real. And I think he's really preoccupied with it, Craig. So we're going to just agree to disagree on that one.
Fair. But if he routines De Minaur, I want to.
Well, but
if
you
he
know
routines De Minaur,
I hear you.
Gonna...
I think he described it quite well, though, in his press conference about it's kind of a roller coaster. He'll come out, he'll feel pretty good the first set. And then after a certain point, then he's wincing and he's feeling it. And then he gets treatment. And in other words, he has to work his way assiduously through every match and with a lot of determination. And it can't be fun playing that way at all. And the point that David Law is making is interesting, because I think most of the time Novak does not want to he doesn't like to make excuses. And I've seen him many times come in press conferences after losses and refuse to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
But this timing was really tricky. And why would you have private practice sessions? Why would you not be practicing on your days off? This reminds me a little bit, although I think, Craig, it's a more serious injury in some ways, trickier injury to deal with. 2 years ago, he had some kind of an abdominal tear, and when he won this tournament, and it happened against Taylor Fritz, and you saw him scream out after victory in 5 sets because it happened mid-match. And when he won the 5th set with no fans in the stands, he let out a scream that could have been heard in Colorado all the way from Australia. And it was relief. And then you saw him get a little better match by match, but you could still see he wasn't feeling 100% against Raonic and Zverev. And then by the time he got to the finals against Medvedev, you felt like he played his way through it. This one, I think, is trickier because hamstrings are complicated injuries, and you just never know when it's going to start bugging you again. But I just don't think somebody as great as Djokovic, who's the best in the world, it needs to make any excuses. And I think the evidence is there that he's feeling real pain. Now that could change. You said, what if he beats de Minaur in straight sets? Sure. Maybe somehow this thing clears itself up. But so far, he hasn't had one match this tournament in the first 3 where he's felt 100% himself.
This reminds me of a conversation. I was shooting a story with Carlos Moya in Miami when Carlos Moya was _1 in the world. And I just kind of looked at his hand, and he had cracked, his hands all cracked, and he said they were just, the whole table, his whole team, his entourage, they were all at the table talking. He said, I just was saying to my team, I can't remember being 100% healthy one day. So I think it's all, everyone's definition of an injury is maybe a little different.
Look, it's such a physical sport now. I mean, no one's feeling 100% at this time. I mean,
but this is a far cry from some kind of niggling injury where you're confident in your mind that you can deal with it. You're not going to need the trainer. You make special steps in your preparation to be prepared for, and then you go out and play and you're able to forget about it. This is obviously on his mind at all times. And you can't go through 3 matches having to get these medical timeouts. It's the last thing you want to do, especially when you've got leads. The last thing you want to do when you're up 4-1 in the third, 2 breaks, 2 sets to love up, is take time off the court to get a medical time. I mean, that made it harder to close it out. So I just think this is more than a typical injury. It's a tricky one that is he may have to keep dealing with these circumstances every match the rest of the tournament if he can survive.
All right, well, we'll see how it plays out. We don't want to belabor the point. I know Craig wants to go start watching some tennis. So just one more thing before we let Craig go. And again, we're appreciative of your time. On the women's side, I know a lot of us had our eyes on a potential quarterfinal between Iga Swiatek and Coco Gauff. Bless you. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because Iga lost to Rybakina, former Wimbledon champ, and Ostapenko beat Coco. And that second set, I mean, I watched that whole match. The first set, Coco had plenty of chances. She had a total of 7 break points. She did break her early on, but Ostapenko broke her kind of right back. And then she had 6 chances in 2 or 3 other games in that set, didn't capitalize. And then that second set was as clean.
David, just to interrupt a second, not to mention she had 40-15 Coco to get to the tiebreaker at 5-6 for sure. That was a killer game to lose, didn't you think?
Killer game. So she had opportunities galore in that set. The second set was as clean of a set as I've seen a person play in Ostapenko. I mean, she didn't miss. She was making every ball, cracking it. And I heard the announcers, and I have all huge respect for Mary Jo, Patrick McEnroe, Renee Stubbs, the list goes on and on. I mean, they've played at the highest level. They've coached high level players. They kept trying to say maybe Coco could have put more variety or maybe loopers or drop shots or slice. all true. The bottom line is Ostapenko was not allowing Coco to try to do any of that in those points. On the first or second ball that Ostapenko had, she was cracking it, and Coco was way on the defensive right away, way off the court. So the advice was good. I just didn't think Ostapenko gave Coco a chance to do that. How'd you guys see that?
Yeah, but Craig, you answer that. But before you do, tell me what was your impression of Coco's reaction to the defeat, and then what were your impressions of the match itself?
I just, it's funny. Ostapenko is the Vinnie Johnson of pro tennis. Remember Vinnie Johnson, the microwave on the Detroit Pistons? This guy would come on the court and just get so hot and unconscious and not and score 40 points in 10 minutes, and no one knew what the hell just happened. And Ostapenko just starts burying balls into the corners. And all of a sudden, she takes everyone's time away, and the match is like, now she's six sets away from winning another a major. She looks unfit. She looks terrible in her clothes.
Yeah, Craig, has there been a lot of talk about that? She does look heavy. It's remarkable to me that she can be playing this well at that weight. What are your thoughts on that?
But even like, I think she's in some kind of tennis shape. Maybe does everyone's in all different shapes and sizes can win tennis matches. I just don't know. But she totally destroyed Coco Gauff in that second set. She looked stunned. And
what was your take, Craig, on
I'm
trying to change the pace and stuff like that? I just felt like Ostapenko didn't give her an opportunity to do any of that.
No, nothing. I didn't think so either. And Coco Gauff, I saw her play early in the week, and I felt like I thought she had fixed her problems with her forehand with is it Diego Moyano who's the coach? Is it Diego
He's in
Moyano?
The box now.
Yeah,
I don't think Coco played that poorly. I don't think Coco played poorly last night.
But so her forehand, some of the problems have crept back in. The courts are faster here than other places. I think that I saw her like bailing out of her forehands, hitting some slice forehands, which I hadn't seen her done in the last few years. She had started playing like way better with this guy in the box. But with that said, when Ostapenko goes nuclear like that, when she just starts to Chernobyl, it's just crazy. There's just no, I'd say it's more about this crazy level of insane tennis that Ostapenko starts playing, and then you're like, well, there's nothing anyone could have done.
Right. I agree with you.
Two things, Craig. Number one, don't you think it's kind of a nightmare for anyone to play Ostapenko if she's on like that, not just Coco? And number two, where in the world do you come up with these phrases? Have you are these pre-planned, Craig, or do you do it spur of the moment? Because you hit us with about 10 over the course of the last 35 minutes, all of them highly amusing.
That's just my lingo.
That's Craig, man. That's Craig.
I'm tennis's rascal. That's how we do it. But listen, fellas, I think I've overstayed my welcome here in the upstairs roof players lounge. These guys are getting ready to go to war, as I said. Hey, listen, anytime I always say on my show, every time I have a chance to speak to a Hall of Famer, it's a pleasure and a privilege. So, Steve, great to be on your show. Thank you very much. And David, thank you very much. And, as Bud always said, keep following that yellow fuzzy ball.
Thanks so much, Craig. We appreciate your time and enjoy your last day on the grounds.
Bye, fellas. Ciao.
Bye.